Hello and welcome to another episode of the Auto Guide Show brought to you by eBay Motors. This week we talk a lot about the Ford Maverick. I drive an Acura. Bentley has a crazy new idea and Kyle's in a volcano. But first, a word from our sponsor. eBay Motors is here for the ride. Your elbow grease, fresh installs, and a whole lot of love transformed 100,000 miles and a body full of rust into a driveway entirely its own. Brake kits, LED headlights, whatever you need, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. Okay, welcome back. So as I said, Kyle isn't maybe in a volcano, but he's looking at them. He's on vacation in Iceland. So we have a guest co-host this week. Jay, introduce yourself and what you do.
Hi, my name is Jay Canna. I have been an automotive reviewer for 11 years. I contribute to this fantastic outlet, AutoGuide, and I have my own channel with my partner, Steph Wallcraft, and it is called Modern Motoring, and same thing, just in video form.
All right.
And I have really awesome hair. Awesome hair.
Sounds great. Well, we'll have people check that out. We'll talk about it a bit at the end again.
All right.
Let's get right into the news and review. So we'll start with the big news that started this week, and that's the Maverick, everyone's favorite tiny pickup truck because it's the only one. It got an overhaul.
You can get, right? Like, I understand all this demand, and I don't know. I don't know why Ford just doesn't find a faster way to get these out and have keys exchanged.
Yeah, and get more. Just dedicate a whole plant or three. But anyway, the biggest weakness it had was addressed. The one that Canadians and Northern Americans have been asking for since it launched is all-wheel drive for the hybrid. People want all-wheel drive and efficiency, and finally Ford has launched it. It isn't like they're holding back. It takes time to engineer, obviously, a transmission that can do that with the hybrid system because, well, it just does. But on top of that, they restyled it slightly. The front end's got more of a Ford truck face. The old Maverick had a kind of a distinct, almost European look. This one's more truckish, and they're differentiating every trim with a different grille, which I haven't learned what they all are, but that'll be interesting. And inside there's a couple updates.
It's a lot. It just make the differences something more than a grille. It just seems like an ill-placed use of financial resources. Like, oh, you have the XLT. Oh, well, forget that. You have the Lariat trim. I don't know, just give me better audio, give me, some kind of suspension or whatever it is. Sure, it's nice to differentiate, but I don't think Maverick owners are going to be that hung up on a grille.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'll get the other stuff and wheels and whatnot, but I guess so people can see from the front that you paid a lot for your Maverick or a little, I don't know. But but the nice thing about the hybrid is it looks like the all-wheel drive will be optional in pretty much the whole lineup. So that's good. They're not just tying it to like a top trim or top two trims. So basically, unless you're getting the Tremor or something we're going to talk about in a second that only has a 2-liter, everything else, I believe, you can get the hybrid and all-wheel drive if you want.
Do you see a world either this year or next year, the year after, where people will opt for the front-wheel drive?
I do in the South, like California, New Mexico, Arizona, just because saves even more gas. But I don't know. They still sell a lot of 2-wheel drive cars in the US that you think
that
people
we have
wouldn't
all-wheel
get.
drive for here.
Yeah, that you wouldn't think people would get. But once you get down to the, like the desert and the really South, Texas, I get it. They barely even get rain, never mind snow. But
yeah, and again, it just comes back again to me anyway for not misplaced resources this time, but I think if they just wiped out the front wheel drive option and said it's an all-wheel drive and that's it, I don't think many people would be up in arms about it. It's like, oh well, I'm losing maybe 1 mile per gallon or half of a liter per 100 kilometer for the Canadian viewers. That's what I do.
Their marketing department would be up in arms because that's what the front wheel drive's for, is to be able to say it gets this much miles per gallon or this much liters per 100. But the other nice thing is if you get the hybrid and all-wheel drive, you can get the 4K tow package, which is the 4,000-pound tow package, which you couldn't get with a hybrid before. So, yeah, I think it's good to have the choice. Like you said, it's already popular, and I think it's only going to get more popular with car buyers when they have, say, a friend or someone they know that bought one instead of a car, and they get in it and realize, like, it's just an Escape with a bed basically. So it's not like it's a truck. So it will drive like a car. And we're going to have someone on from Ford later this podcast to talk in depth about this Maverick and our next story.
The
Maverick
Lobo.
Lobo. So when I got the news on this, I was like, what? Like this is pretty cool. It didn't go all the way in like I'd like, but I get it because you'd start pricing yourself on the market and be too niche. But basically, Ford is making a version of the Maverick directly aimed at the whatever you want to call it, sport compact truck scene from the late 80s into the early 2000s, where people would take old hard bodies and B2000s and Rangers and, slam them and big wheels and all that sort of stuff. So thankfully, it's not just an appearance package. It does have its own grille, which I know you're a big fan of. It's got very unique 19-inch wheels that look like someone said they look like 70s Trans Am wheels, which I totally get. They kind of look like
it's the Knight Rider wheels.
Yeah, they look like a bit of a rally wheel, but they were basing it off of the concept they had at SEMA a couple years ago. But I just think it's cool, like that's what it gets, because it's going to be recognizable from a mile away with those.
But who's going to buy these though?
Oh, they'll sell. There's people who want these. I want this one because it's more car-like, because they've also lowered it, given it a stiffer suspension. They've taken out the 8-speed automatic and put in the dual clutch 7-speed with paddle shifters, which you can't get on the Maverick otherwise. It's got the Focus ST front brakes with the dual caliper. Basically, they went to Europe and took bits and pieces because this is all shared on the same Focus Escape platform, right? Like they all are together. Yeah. So it's not hard to make pieces fit. The engine's the same. It's all-wheel drive, 2-liter turbo only. So like the performance isn't huge, but I think people will buy them. I don't know, just because it's not. I don't know what the price is going to be, but I don't imagine it'll be more than what's the top Lariat, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're testing the waters.
Yeah, and I hope they do a small run, and very optimistically, I hope people that buy them tweak them even more. Whether they drop it another inch or get something else or some other bits and pieces to it, because it looks good. It just doesn't look great.
Well, Ford said it's a blank canvas, and they're selling 2 versions, which again they haven't got specifics, but they called a low and a high. So the high will have probably all the options, and the low will be more stripped down, so you can put in, like, I guess your own audio system, or I don't know. But you're right. I think I don't know, like maybe 2 out of every 10 sold will be modified, and I think other ones people just want it because the most successful version of something like this that I could think of in it's not even recent history is back when Toyota had the X Runner for the Tacoma. And those things sold like crazy because they looked great. They didn't have any more performance in terms of engine. They did in suspension, just like this does, but it just looked great. And those things sold like crazy. And good luck trying to find one used for the last 20 years. But I mean, I think this too is people have been demanding a Maverick ST because they pretty much have ST'd everything else, and this isn't an ST.
Can you imagine like a real Maverick? Even a Maverick RS would do it for me.
And that's, I mean, just pure speculation, but I'm wondering if this is testing that. Like, if this sells good, then maybe they'll think, okay, let's put the 2.3 EcoBoost in here. I don't know if they have one that's front wheel drive based, but you maybe get the 2. What is the one that the RS had? It was a 2-liter. Was it a 2?
Yeah, 2-liter turbo Ford jammed up.
So yeah, here's hoping maybe down the road. And it is a 2-liter turbo already, so like someone buys this, it's just a plug in your computer and void your warranty and jack up the power. It's not going to be hard.
Well, there's something I read about how Ford's CEO wants North Americans to fall in love again with small vehicles, the same small ones they killed. So maybe this is a nice medium. They still have that king of the truck world banner flying high, but they don't need an F-150. Right? They want something smaller. Yeah. So maybe this is, we won't get the Fusion back, and we won't get any of the actual sedans they killed back, but function, a little bit of flair. This could be it.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask our guest from Ford later about who's buying these. Not the Lobo, because we don't know, but the Mavericks, because when it came out, it made perfect sense to me because it is a compact car, but with a truck bed, and North Americans are truck crazy. So it made sense. And all the manufacturers are slowly trying to figure out what's the car they can build that's disguised as something else. I mean, Chevy has the Trax, which is probably the closest to a car. It's just jacked up, but that's what people want to buy. So we're kind of getting cars back, just in a costume that
Now,
looks like something else.
I will ask you this: why did the Santa Cruz fail? If the formula for size and shape is right.
I think it was price and packaging in both markets. In Canada, I mean, we couldn't get, what was it, the hybrid, and it was
Yeah.
real expensive. And in
50K.
yeah, and in the US it was pretty pricey, and I think it was almost too radical. Like people saw it and they're like thought they had to be surfer or something. Like
So kind of
I mean,
back to the
yeah,
Subaru Baja days, right?
yeah, like this looks like a truck, and
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the Santa Cruz, and I still think it's cool, but this is also Ford, so you have your customer base already coming in.
Right
And
there.
someone was saying, "This isn't a compact truck. Why are you calling it a compact?" And it's almost the exact same size as the last, what people consider the real Ranger, but the one that they shared with Mazda, that like the last Ranger of the early 2000s, and they had the
The B2000, yeah.
Yeah, 4000 or 3, whatever engine you got. So
Whatever it is.
I consider that a compact truck. I mean, a compact truck doesn't mean it has to be the size of a compact car. It's just a small truck, whereas all the so-called small trucks now are mid-size at best. So. Anyway, moving on. So I drove an Acura TLX Type-S, and you happen to drive the same car. So last year I drove the 23, and I called it the most underrated sporty luxury sedan on the market, because I don't think it gets any consideration because they see the Acura badge maybe, or because it's a front wheel drive bias setup. But like super handling all wheel drive is magic in this thing. It really makes it feel like it's more rear biased. It could hold its own, I think, with easily hold its own with any of the 4-cylinder German cars in its class, and wouldn't be far off the 6s, but it's priced like the 4s. So yeah, I think it doesn't get enough credit, but I have a couple huge problems with it. Number one is a trackpad. So when they updated it this year, I was like, oh, great. New infotainment screen. Trackpad's gone. I get in it, and there's the trackpad just sitting there. And the screen's still not touch, which if you made it a touch screen when you put the new one in, I could bypass it. I don't care. But they did change the looks a bit, which I didn't think were terrible, but it does look a little nicer. And the new screen is much clearer, and the software looks, like as of today, as opposed to the old one that looked of 10 years ago. So they're getting there. If you can live with the trackpad, the only thing I'll give them credit on the trackpad is response. They've listened, because it was so sensitive before, and you'd be trying to just slightly move to one menu to be 6 down, and now it's way more intuitive to your speed. And I kind of like how you can draw numbers to get radio stations, even though like it's slow and gimmicky. It's just fun.
My thing is, if Lexus/Toyota, the brand that is steadfast to a formula to a T, was willing to wipe out trackpads, I think only the IS has one left now. And Acura is a tiny little brand that has seen better days, years, and months. I don't know what the holdup is. They put out the Prologue. I know it's a Honda thing, but Honda Acura, and Acura has a ZDX. I don't know why they wouldn't have just even waited 6 months, or even skipped a model year like some other manufacturers have, and just said, you know what, here, we've wiped out the one complaint that is consistent across all of our cars. Now, like you said, it's completely underrated. And I think because Acura's fallen from popularity, I think people don't really consider the TLX Type-S or not to be in their, A, B, or C list of competitors. They're like, oh, well, unless you're an Acura loyalist, not many Acura products are going to be having, or not many Acura dealerships are going to be that full. There's all the Germans, and there's Genesis, there's Lexus. So it's a tough crowd, and I think Acura is at the bottom of that crowd for all their vehicles, super handling, all-wheel drive or not.
Yeah, I mean, Infinity's having a tough time too, although the QX60 is doing pretty well. We did a comparison with that, with the MDX, and like the MDX, since it's new, it has way better technology, and you just wish it would get down to this. I know this car has been around, and who knows what's coming after it, but I think part of the problem too is people don't realize like Acura's top models are quite sporty. People, I think, assume they're just a name and maybe some visuals, but like this has a 3-liter turbos instead of the 4-cylinder or the old
Yep.
6-cylinder, and the MDX has a 2, and the Integra has 2 great engines. And this engine sounds amazing. Like
It
Honda makes
does.
good 6-cylinders, and they tune this thing great, and it's so smooth to rev. It doesn't even have VTEC, and it still sounds great and revs fast. It's just one of those like, this is all I need to get around every day and still have a lot of fun. Sort of like a WRX. Very different car, but like it's found that sweet spot of comfortable suspension, but corners well and has just enough engine power without it being boring because you touch the gas and you're breaking the law every time. Yeah,
definitely an underrated vehicle, like, hands down. So, and I'm not saying it's as good as a 3 Series. I would take it over a C class, but
same. I take it over C300, and against a 330 or a 430 Grand Coupe, it'd be tough. Even though this has more power, that's a good car. But yeah, I'll do that as a comparison one day. So moving on, a couple quick little bits here. So Cadillac introduced the precision package for the CTS-V Blackwing. You may not know this. Kyle knows this because I say it all the time. But this is my favorite car currently sold, bar none. The Blackwing with the 6-speed, because in comfort mode, the Magna ride's like, it's like magic. So it's like a Cadillac, and I turn everything off and make it smooth, and the family's just fine and running a fancy caddy, and they don't know any different, even with the manual, because it's so smooth. And then I throw it in sport, open the valves and the exhaust, and I suddenly have a Corvette or a Camaro ZL1 underneath me. It's just, and it sounds so good. And all those mechanics, like people have been saying forever, are so good. Like they honed those for the Z06 back in the day. So
the versatility is absolutely there. And if we thought the TLX was a sleeper car, I think the Blackwing is even more of a sleeper car. Right? Like,
oh yeah,
I sometimes forget that Cadillac has the Blackwing, right? Because it's not very heavily publicized. But it's a machine. It's versatile, and like you said, right, it can be very tame when you need it to be. But if you find yourself on a track with 2 minutes to spare, like, off you go.
Yeah, like I took it the normal one up to the cottage with the family, my wife, my son, my small dog in the back, and it was a hot summer day, and we were just like, couldn't have been more comfortable. And then so anyway, the precision package, it gives an even more aggressive setting for the suspension, and it actually has replaced a bunch of suspension components to make it a little more handling based than comfort. And it's got carbon ceramic brakes. The goal, Cadillac said in their release, is it allows for more precise, better turn into a corner, which allows you then to exit at higher speeds. And they've reworked everything to be able to do that. And I mean, it sounds great. Carbon ceramic brakes, great. But is any actual owner ever going to take a CT5-V Blackwing on a track? I'd be surprised if it's over 1%. But as with any car at this level, it's the bragging rights at the golf club, at the office, or whatever, saying like, this is what my car has. So
I think
we get to drive it.
Oh, that's the thing, right? I can't wait till it shows up on the press fleet. But unless unless Cadillac organizes a specific track day for it, a fraction of a percent of these will actually see track driving.
Yeah,
even smaller tracks,
But I mean, and I get it, because I'd be this guy if I had that money. Someone like that lives some nice canyon roads or whatnot will be with their friend and be like, see how much better it turns in and whatnot. And it's like, are you really feeling it? Or it probably is, but
or are you just saying it because that's what Cadillac said in their thing?
I mean, that's been the thing of cars since like the beginning of cars, basically.
Yeah.
Speaking of fast cars, so Lamborghini has officially announced the Huracan replacement is coming on the 16th of this month. So that's exactly 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks today.
So all we know is it has a turbo hybrid V8 that makes almost 900 horsepower and goes to 10,000 RPM. It just sounds made up, but that's what it does. The thing I'm the most excited about, besides trying to learn how to pronounce the new name of whatever it is, they're not tied down by Audi anymore. They don't have to appease the Audi overlords. So there's no R8 this is based off of. So hopefully it can actually have Lambo doors again. and the styling could be a little more crazy. I mean, the Huracan still looked good, but it never, I feel, could have been as wide and wedgy as their other cars because it had to somewhat relate to a
The
more
RA.
livable, supercar. So yeah, I mean, we know it'll be a crazy name. Like, gone are the days of the easy to pronounce like Diablos, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what it is.
Now, based off what you see on the screen, which is all any of us have really seen, what's your gut reaction?
I don't know, because the lighting's so weird. The only thing that looks like there is there's two deep well intakes like in the hood. So it's the the air that was sucking the radiator, then go out the back of the hood, which would be nice. So the lights look very much like what they have now, but I think this will be, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. That's all I can tell from that picture. It looks much different.
Do you think that Lambo is going to run this model until the mandates come in for EVs?
Maybe, if they ever fully come in. But yeah, I mean, they run their models a long time, so.
Now, this will come out as a 2025 model year vehicle.
Yeah, probably. I don't think we'll see it till next year. And then they just updated the Urus with the new power plant. So yeah, if they go full EV, they can even convert this for all we know. It's going to be a plug-in. Well, it's going to be a hybrid. We don't know if it's a plug-in, but it's going to have a battery to start. So we'll see where they go with it.
900 horsepower. That's
almost.
Anything over 600, do we just stop counting? Or
yeah, I don't know. You don't feel a difference. I've said that many times. Like, when you get my things about 0 to 60, when people are like, oh, mine does 2.5, mine does 2.9. I've taken people who aren't car people in cars that do ridiculous 0 to 60s, and it's around I'd say the 3.5 second mark. As soon as you get below that, they'll never tell the difference, because they're like, they're not blacking out, but they're like so taken aback by the force, they don't know. So
yeah,
that too is all bragging rights, just like the Cadillac parts. Like, no one's going to take their 1 second car and race this person in real life. I mean, they're going to see videos or whatever. Anyway, whole other topic. So final story, because we're running along here, is Bentley has patented a flying bee. And we don't mean the logo that's on the hoods, but literally a flying bee. We found a patent where they are patenting a drone that comes out of the hood, or where the hood ornament is, I don't know. And you can deploy it from inside the car and outside the car. And they have a picture, just try to relate it. It's like the car's here and the drone's like half the size of the car. And I was like, I don't think it's gonna be that big. But anyway, their reasoning, which is actually good reasoning, but this is such an Bentley overkill idea, is it could go up in traffic jams and be able to look around at alternate routes that aren't as busy. It could go up if you're distressed for SOS. And what's the third one? There's another. I'll have to go back and look at it.
I don't even think
that
the first two are just ridiculous.
Locate parking spots. So if you go into a big parking lot, it can shoot up and do a big overview of the parking lot and say, there's a spot.
For the one person that will park their own Bentley instead of giving it to the valet.
Well, all I can think of is Bentley service. I mean, there's very few of them in the world, but they're going to be happy about this, because they'll be selling replacement drones probably monthly to people who drove away and forgot the drone was still back there or something. I don't know. I mean, in the picture, it looks like it's kind of tethered, which would make sense. But yeah. I
know, like, there's an instant 360 cam with a stick that you can just put up as well and get your information. All right, I guess that's how the 1% live, right?
Yeah, it's hey, look what my car can do, right? When the cars first started self-parking themselves, that was quite the thing. Although I've used that in a practical sense. But anyway, that's all the news. We're going to take a 2-second break, and we'll be right back with our question of the week. eBay Motors is here for the ride. With the parts you need at the prices you want, and with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, they're guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. Okay, we are back, and this week, because it is all the rage in the industry and just keeps growing, is what vehicle needs an off-road version? I mean, pretty much every SUV has, for more or less an off-road version, even if it's just stickers. They have a trim that's supposed to be off-roady. I mean, the 911 and the Huracan have off-road versions. So yeah, it's spreading through the industry. So I'll let you, I guess I'll go first because I'm putting you on the spot. I have two, maybe three. So the first one I'm thinking of is kind of sticking to the sports car theme, and because I just drove one, is the Mustang. Because Ford has such a truck audience and they have such a Mustang audience. And I would love to see the percentage of owners that own a Mustang also have an F-150. I bet you it's like a third. Like, it's up there. I know a lot of people personally because that's their daily truck and work truck, and that's their fun. So imagine a Mustang with some cladding and like KO2 tires and a big, like, have the exhaust come out like, I don't know, the trunk or something. It could work. Because the Ford folks would be like, yeah, I mean, you could just maybe rip some parts off the Bronco and throw it on. And I think the Mustang can get away with it. Yeah, and I think the Mustang can get away with it because it is like a kind of a more of a brute than a, you know, sophisticated slinky car. So that's my first one. Going to the car
off-road Mustang, or like a Mustang Badlands.
Yeah, or like more like a, I mean, you call it Mustang Raptor would be the most sensible, but more like the Ranger, where it's like a sand stormer as opposed to like a rock crawler.
Okay, noted. What else do you got?
You don't have any?
I have a ridiculous one, and you'll laugh, and I will laugh.
You say it first, and I'll go practical after.
An actual Corolla, not a Corolla Cross, not a RAV4, but an actual Corolla, because it's one of the few affordable vehicles. And even if Toyota tacked on $5,000 to the MSRP and gave it a small bit of a lift, not as high as the Corolla Cross, and just gave it a little bit of off-roadiness, because these people, you know, maybe they rent a cottage a couple of times a year, or maybe they need the lift for not necessarily off-roading in the actual definition, but if they live somewhere in Canada or the US where they get a ton of snow, right? And they don't want the SUV. So I'm going ridiculously practical with just a regular good old Corolla.
I'm glad you said sedan, because I mean, Toyota will never go for that because they'll just point at the Corolla Cross and say, we already got one. Yeah. So the hatchback would really not make sense, because they really do. But I mean, the sedan's been tried. Subaru did it with the Legacy. Remember the Sus that they had back in the day, and others have tried. But sticking more practical too, my other one isn't even a model, although I'll pick one, but Mitsubishi. They just need something like that. They have their SAWC, which has a name to it, and the rally heritage. Like, jack up the Outlander. I mean, that's the best thing they made. Maybe the PHEV even specifically, and jack it up a bit, put on some nice tires, and maybe you could make the PHEV, the battery could be used for extra grip and rock crawling and stuff. But I mean, an Outlander with the turbo engine out of the Eclipse Cross jacked up would be interesting. Not an Outlander, sorry, the Outlander Sport, the little guy. But I think that car's pretty much dead.
Yeah. But I can see it. I can see an Outlander PHEV, a little bit of a lift, maybe an inch, and like I said, the nice, better suited tires. Maybe a little bank.
And Mitsubishi, they have that history, not here, but overseas, with all the rally raids and the Dakars they've done with the Monteros and whatnot. So you could even like give it one of those names. Like, I don't know.
Well, in that case, I will see your Outlander Sport. I will flip you a different wing in their head office in Europe, and I will go with the Rogue, because Nissan has the Pathfinder Rock Creek, and I'm so surprised that they wouldn't have touched the one model that's keeping the lights on Nissan, being the Rogue, and just trickling it down. Again, we know they have the parts. It's not a matter of re-engineering the entire vehicle. Kind of like a lather, rinse, repeat from the Rock Creek. Just take it off the SV trim, add some bits to it, add some fancy decals and whatever, and people will buy it.
I think everyone's taking the Subaru approach, where you put it on your expensive car first and try to maximize the money, and then you slowly work it down. You go Legacy Outback, and then Forester, and then finally Crosstrek. But you're right. Like Hyundai, Kia, Nissan, Honda, like they're all going to have versions in there, you know, the bread and butter cars sooner than later, I assume. I mean, Mazda's already done it too. They have the Meridian, and that's probably the best CX-50 on the market, in my opinion. So
yeah, I wonder if the CX-90 will find its way into getting a Meridian version.
That'd be cool.
I guess there's no point in putting that in the CX-70 because the CX-70 is kind of the same-ish size as the CX-50, a different power plant up front. But I think Subaru's done it well. I don't mind the RAV4 Woodland edition. I'd like a little more out of it, but I don't think RAV4 drivers care. I just don't.
CX-70 Meridian, I think, would be good because the 90, the 3-row probably less wears the 2-row, with some beadlock capable tires and stuff. But all right, well, that's it for this question. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, it'll be me, and I'll be talking with Ford about the Maverick that we discussed earlier, get some more details from them, and then we'll have Colin Wood on to talk F1. So this is the Auto Guide Show brought to you by eBay Motors, and we'll be back in a minute. eBay Motors is here for the ride. Okay, everyone, let's take a minute and talk about the one that got away. The vehicle you once owned and for whatever reason had to get rid of, and to this day fully regret ever doing so. For me, it's my Subaru SVX. It was a 1997 model, which was one of the last years it was ever sold here. It was black on the outside and it had the beige leather and suede interior. It was in amazing condition for its age because it was just a one-owner vehicle. The interior was near flawless. The paint was pretty good considering it was about a 20-year-old car when I got it. I just loved everything about it. I loved the quirkiness because I love oddball cars. I love the window within the window, the power button on the gear shifter, the way the dash was laid out and you could hide the radio behind the fake wood panel. The flat six was just so smooth and it was all-wheel drive, and although it wasn't overly quick, it still had enough power. The problem was, within a year of buying that car, I ended up selling it because I got a great deal on another vehicle. And to this day, I regret doing so. Part of the reason I sold it was, although it was in great shape, it wasn't perfect and there were things that needed to be fixed, like the air conditioner, reservoir, some bearings, and other bits. And back then there was no eBay guaranteed fit program, so finding parts for such a rare 20-year-old car was not easy. Luckily, I sold it to someone who not only cared for it, but took the time to fix it up, and every once in a while I do get to still see it, and I still regret ever getting rid of it. I am constantly online looking for a new SVX because now I have a system that I can find parts for it, but I haven't come across one that's both in the right condition and the right price range. With over 122 million parts, you can make sure your number one ride or die stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. All right, welcome back. We have a very special guest today to talk about a pretty important vehicle. If you could just introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mike. My name is Matthew Rompuy. I'm the marketing brand manager for the Ford Maverick for Ford of Canada.
All right, well, welcome. So it's been a pretty big week for Maverick. We've had two big news pieces over the last 5 days or so. So let's start with the biggest piece by far is the hybrid is finally getting all-wheel drive, something that's been asked for by consumers, I'm sure, and we in the media have mentioned it. So why now? Why is the time to introduce it at this point?
This is obviously, as you said, this is big news for Canada, considering our colder climate, and the snow that we still get in many provinces and many regions of the country. The time was right. We've been listening to our customers over the last 3 years, ever since we launched Maverick in 2021. And although many of them really appreciated and really love the Maverick hybrid in front-wheel drive powertrain mode, they wanted more. In fact, their number one wish was to have a hybrid all-wheel drive. And after looking at our resources and what we could do with our production capacity, we're finally happy to say and to announce to the world that hybrid all-wheel drive Maverick is now coming to Canada. And we think that our customers will love it.
Yeah, it's there's a big chunk of Canada. There's a big chunk of the northern U.S. that I'm sure we're asking for it, and people would say, "Well, just put it on." It's not that easy. You got to develop a transmission and drive shafts and everything. But happy it's there finally.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds very easy on paper, but in a world of limited resources, we sometimes have to make tough choices and decision. And finally, we're happy to launch it, and it's going to be great for our Canadian customers.
So the Maverick's been out for a couple of years now. I always said it's sort of the future of compact vehicles. Are you seeing more truck buyers downsizing to the Maverick, or are you seeing more like traditional compact car, midsize car buyers transitioning over?
In fact, we're seeing a little bit of both, Mike. We're seeing a lot of competitive small cars buyer coming to Maverick, but also a lot of competitive SUVs, small SUVs. The small SUV is a booming segment. It's very important here in Canada, and we're seeing customers who have owned, 2 or 3 of these smaller SUVs, and they want something different. And Maverick resonates really well with them. The fuel efficiency, the hybrid powertrain, the capacity, and the fact that it's just the right size. So we're seeing a lot of these customers coming from their smaller SUVs into Maverick, and we're also seeing some customers downsizing a little bit from the midsize pickup truck as well.
Is there like a key demographic you haven't got yet that you're trying to win over, maybe with the new model, a section that you had hoped to originally get, and hopefully the updates will attract them in?
That's a very good question. When we designed Maverick a few years ago, and when we launched in 21 calendar year, our goal was really to attract more millennials. And considering the efficiency, the affordable price point, we accomplished just that. We're very happy with the number of millennials that have come to Maverick and have purchased a Maverick. The changes made to the 25 model year, bringing this all-wheel drive hybrid that we talked about, and the changes to the interior, more technology, better technology with bigger screens, and now Sync 4, which allows for wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We hope to continue to grow our customers base and those millennials, but we also hope to attract more women to the brand with Maverick, which we started doing with this current generation that we have, but we hope to continue to grow that segment with the new Maverick and the new technology that we're bringing with the 25 model year.
Yeah, I've had it obviously for review, and both men and women, they say to me, "Oh, I don't want a truck," and I say, "Drive it. It's not any different than really driving, like you said, a small SUV. It's like you're driving your Escape. It's just got an open bed that you can use for more things." So yeah, I think it's getting the word out there, really.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. The Maverick is on our C2 platform, the platform that we share with the Ford Escape. And you're right, it drives a little bit more like an SUV, and it is not as intimidating as a bigger pickup truck. And our customers who live in big urban centers have really adopted Maverick as well, because it's the right size. It's easy to maneuver. It's easy to park, in a downtown condo parking lot. And we think that customers are still going to love this iteration of the 25 Maverick for those reasons.
Yeah, it's great. So now we transition to what really has me excited. It was announced a day after the hybrid that there is a Lobo coming that Ford's claiming is the return of the street truck. And looking at it, I'd say it's pretty much on there. So I'm glad it isn't just cosmetic changes. There's actual mechanical things. Can you kind of walk us through what has been done to the truck to make it more performance oriented?
So yeah, Lobo it's very exciting. It is our on-road performance version of the Maverick. And as you mentioned, we went beyond just cosmetic changes. So let's start with the powertrain. So Maverick is available with 2 powertrain, a 2-liter EcoBoost engine, and the hybrid powertrain that we just talked about. The Lobo is only available with a 2-liter, our most powerful engine, and it's all-wheel drive only. So we start with the high horsepower engine just to give it more performance. The transmission is a 7-speed quick shift with paddle shifter automatic transmission. So again, slightly different than the 8-speed that you would find in other Maverick, and again tuned for just higher performance and the fun of having paddle shifters available. But it's not all. We also have enhanced brakes with dual piston front calipers that we find in the Focus ST that is sold in Europe. We have a performance tuned steering, performance tuned suspension. better and bigger radiator and fan. In fact, those are the same features that you would find in Ford Maverick that are equipped with a 4,000-pound towing package. So we've upgraded those features as well. And we also have, and it's very exciting, all these things are kind of combined together in a special drive mode that we call the Lobo, simply called the Lobo drive mode, which brings everything together and basically allow for better cornering, better grip, better stability, and just overall to work to minimize understeer. So we think that our customers are going to love the look, but they're probably going to love the performance even better when they get to drive the Maverick Lobo.
Yeah, I'll get to the look in a second. So when I released the video on Thursday last week, I included a lot of the B-roll that has the Lobo doing the autocross, and quite a few times it would get a little tail happy, which is nice to see. And yeah, it seems to just kind of stick better. And I know Ford's talking about this as sort of a canvas for people to work on. And I can see some of these tearing up local lap days or autocrosses down the road with big tires and even more aggressive suspension. And the brakes are already pretty good. So it's good to see the segment maybe coming back.
Yeah, I mean, the engineering team wanted to have a little bit of fun. I mean, Maverick is already a fun vehicle. This is just taking it to the next level. And you're right, you were referring to the kind of the autocross B-roll and, the vehicle kind of being tail happy. And that's what it does, which is very unusual, for a vehicle like this. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and our customers will appreciate what we did. And it, as we said, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I can't wait to try it myself. And I mean, that 2-liter has a good aftermarket too, if people want to go that route. But back to the look. So the exterior design is unique, and I think it'll be easier to tell it apart from other trims. And with the 25, sort of each trim's a little different. Can you walk us through sort of the inspiration for some of the design elements, especially those cool 19-inch wheels?
Yeah, I mean, the inspiration really came from, those small, lower to the ground pickup truck from the, late 1980s, 1990s. And, there were some Ford pickup truck that kind of were part of that trend back then. And that was really the inspiration for Maverick Lobo. It was the right size. It had good power. And, we had other parts and features that we could put on the vehicle to kind of return to this era of, lower to the ground pickup trucks with a sporty look. And if you look at the wheels, those 19-inch wheels that you're talking about, there was a vehicle that was designed, a Maverick that was designed for the SEMA show a couple of years ago. And similar wheels were put on that vehicle, and that was part of the inspiration for what you see today. It drew a lot of very good and strong feedback at the SEMA auto show a couple of years ago, and that was the inspiration for this design. And it's I have to say that it's also all backed by the Ford's warranty, so which is something that our customers will really appreciate, considering all the work that we've done with this vehicle.
Yeah, as someone who's modified a lot of cars, I know besides warranty, it's hard to not make other things worse when you try to improve one section. So having something fully engineered is nice. And you're talking about the old scene. I mean, not to date myself, but I fondly remember the Ranger Splash and S10 Extremes and Tacoma X Runners. Those are fun days. So I'm really looking forward to this truck kind of bringing some of that feel back.
Yeah, no, it will be a lot of fun. And you're right, all those vehicles you're talking about. I remember also the Ranger Splash, and customers were asking, when they first saw the Maverick. It started very early on, soon after the launch of the 21 in 2021 for the 22 model year. Customers were asking, and are you going to do something more, with more performance? And the idea came from there also, and here we are today, 3 years later, with this very exciting product.
Yeah, well, like I said, I look forward to testing it out sometime, hopefully before the snow flies, but if not, next year. I thank you, though, very much for coming on. You've given us a lot of good insight on sort of the refresh Maverick as well as this new Lobo, and hope to have you back on again sometime.
I thank you, Mike, for having us. Really, really happy to be here today. And yes, anytime, happy to chat.
All right. I'll see you later.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
All right, we're back with another F1 update. And although we're in the break or silly season, as they call it, there's a lot still going on. Colin, what have you heard as the latest?
Lots of news. I feel like we have to call out your shirt first of all. You're repping like this is appropriate. I need to.
There we go.
There you go. I need to up my gear. Apparently, I need to figure out a.
Yeah, it was a birthday gift from my wife and son, so I have been waiting for the next F1 episode to put it on.
Oh, that's awesome! Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Yeah. So look, when we get into the what's going on, first of all, I guess probably the biggest, most relevant news to everybody is Sainz finally signed with Williams of all places. I didn't even read the press release about why he thinks it's the best move and blah blah blah. I mean, I think it just
doesn't.
No, he does. It's all he's got left, which is kind of weird. And I think he just. I did read some of his quotes about he just wasn't sure about Audi as a team in general and what they bring to the table. I also think that, as we know, Williams is a kind of a feeder team for Mercedes, right? And so he's probably thinking he can have one foot in the door at Mercedes if he's at Williams, right? And short term, if he's a great driver, when the next spot opens up on a good team, he could wind up there, right?
So yeah, two things about that. So one, when you're mentioning Audi, looking at who they're locked up or are locking up, I'm starting to question. Yeah, like I thought they're gonna go for super top talent and come out of the gate guns blazing, but I'm starting to wonder if they're not gonna be that great at the start. We'll have to wait and see. But Sainz, I don't know if he played himself out of the market or this is all he had. I just feel like he's Bottas 2.0, where he leaves Mercedes and goes to Alpha, and yeah, he's the big guy there, and he did good for like a couple races, but look where they are now.
Yeah,
and Albon signed that big extension, and I wonder if he thought to be like the lead in the team, because now he's probably not again. So
yeah, he's probably not. No, so it'll be a weird. I mean, those two could be a weird dichotomy as well. But actually, if you think about it, it's a pretty solid driver pairing for a pretty mediocre team. Like I think Williams hasn't had two drivers this good in a very long time. So, if they can deliver, I mean, I think was it last year that Albon delivered, it was basically all of Williams' points, and they were like 7th in the Constructors' Championship. So if they actually had Albon and Sainz, could they be 5th? Like they could be doing some, if they had a okay car, they could get somewhere. So I'm curious to see what they'll do. I mean, it's not the future of Sainz's career, I don't think. Let's hope not. But yeah, it's going to be a strange time anyway. So
I think Albon still collected all the points this year too.
yeah, he did. Yeah.
The only thing I can think of with him extending long term and Sainz coming over is I'm sure every team's saying this as well, but maybe one just like they've given up on next year, and they're going to put all their resources to make 26 at least be like mid-pack or better competitive, because they've really kind of fallen off. So we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, and that's my indication. That's what I always thought Sauber was doing. It was funny. We saw the news that they basically, brought in, is it Matteo Bonanno? Is he the one who's going to Sauber now? I can't remember who's going to run their setup. But they made some big changes and got rid of the guy who was running the show. And I kind of thought you almost had the expectation that there was no expectation of performance for this year or next. So they don't really care until Audi shows up with the big bucks. And, really all the work happens behind the scenes then. And even the on-track performance isn't good, but maybe people still want to see some decent on-track performance. So the crazy thing about that is you mentioned earlier Audi, to knock my mic, they just signed on Jonathan Wheatley, who was Red Bull's sporting director. And that's, I think it's a pretty good move for them. And everyone kind of also seems to be saying that Red Bull is just exploding. They're just falling apart all over the place. They can't seem to keep people, or the people they do keep, like Perez, don't seem to make any sense. So,
yeah, I think it's one of those. I mean, it happens with every sort of dynasty in F1. You win for so long. I think everyone gets a little more antsy when things start to slightly go wrong, and certain people, I'm not going to mention anyone's dads, start expecting perfection, and if it doesn't happen, then they're screaming in the pits. And I
think there's that, and then there's maybe also a bit of not necessarily complacence, but you start to think, well, we're on top. We don't need whoever. It's fine. If he leaves, that's okay. We can go on without him. And it's like that may be true here and there, but if you lose enough of those people, and you can also just create an environment. Like if you have an environment of champions, right? Like if everyone's winning and you're all pushing in the right direction, it's easy to say that way. But as soon as it starts going south, it could fall apart pretty quickly, and a lot of finger pointing and stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah. And on the opposite of what you said about the team, like the people who work there too, I feel like we've won 7 championships. I'm the one that's really doing all the work, but the guy above me is yelling at me, telling me what to do. I can go over here and be the person in charge. And, and you think I'm so good, I'll go there and instantly win. And that happens a lot too.
Yeah.
Secondaries become primaries other places, and it never pans out.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So we're into the very, I can legitimately say, sexy rumors. So the first one, a little less sexy, but relevant to, we're just talking about Perez. There's this crazy story going around that apparently one of the reasons he is still at Red Bull is that because Liberty Media, the company that owns Formula One, basically reached out to Red Bull and said, could you please keep him around? So the reason that they would intervene is basically they were worried that if they toss him before the Mexico GP, that basically no one will show up at the race and they will lose a fortune. So I don't know how, like, apparently it's a true story that this actually happened. Whether or not, what the specifics of that conversation were, I don't know. But very interesting to see how, Paris, it's so funny, again, being a Canadian, we don't really care if our Canadians are racing or not. Maybe we would if they were fantastic, right? But we don't seem to care.
Or on a good team.
Yeah. And I guess maybe the same was true. If your country has a great driver, it's easy to get behind them. But I can't imagine that, like, maybe I'm wrong, but I can't imagine that everybody in Mexico thinks that Sergio Perez is the greatest driver of all time. Like,
I think at least he's competitive. I mean, like back in the Villeneuve days, people would flock to those races, but yeah, it's same with the Americans. I don't think they care too much if Sargent's in the race or not.
No, I don't either. But versus if you're British, right, and you're like, you can 100% get behind one of many drivers who are top talents in Formula One, right? I just can't see all of Mexico caring that much if Perez is there or not. But I could be totally wrong.
So based on that rumor, like Perez got a multi-year extension and he's been doing nothing recently. I wonder if Red Bull, like after Mexico cuts him or at the end of the season, and if he does, then where does he go? And does Sainz start kicking himself that he didn't just wait a little bit longer and he might have been able to get into seat 2 there?
Yeah, I heard that the Sainz has a clause that basically he's there's a bit of an out if he gets approached by either, I think, Red Bull or Mercedes. Basically, he can leave at some certain point if that happens. So he's covering his bases, which
he's good.
Yeah, he would, and you have leverage if you're negotiating with Williams, right? Like they'd be thrilled to have you. So,
the Albon's the loser in all this because I'm sure he thought he was the one that had a foot in at Mercedes maybe and to race with Russell, and now he doesn't.
Yeah, I was going to say on the flip side, maybe there's a weird scenario where they both start doing reasonably well. The team gets energized. They bring on some good sponsors, more money, and things start all moving in the right direction. Like I think it's so unusual that a team as far back as Williams would have 2 drivers of that caliber. Like that usually never happens. Usually it's some has-beens or something. So it could be the start of amazing resurgent for Williams. I wouldn't bet on it, but you never know.
Back to the glory days. Look at Canada sponsor their cars again.
And,
Alpha did it. Not Alpha. Aston Martin. Like they were sort of a nothing team, and they got Alonso, and everyone was like, "What?" But for a while there, he was right up there fighting. I mean, the teams lost once again. They don't seem to be able to do anything right. But
no, they don't. And you get a feeling they can't stick around for that long if they keep, just underperforming.
And George is still sitting there waiting for a teammate, right? So
yeah. Well, and apparently I read this week that the Kimi Antonelli, the deal's already been signed, and they'll announce it at Monza apparently. So that's the rumor, and then we'll have another driver, checked off the list. So, but do you want to hear the absolute sexiest rumor of the week?
All right.
So this is that apparently Alpine is looking to part ways with their current sponsor, BWT, which is not anything exciting, and instead sign up with OnlyFans. So that's pretty wild.
Okay.
I know. Yeah. Apparently, OnlyFans actually sponsors some race cars in other series, etc. And you and I were chatting before the call here that they try to sort of legitimize themselves with a lot of other tactics they do. So I would be shocked if that really happened. So
Yeah, I know they're pushing themselves mainstream, but what's next? All those online betting sites start being all over cars. Oh wait,
I think they're still as scummy as they are. They're still a level above OnlyFans.
They really are trying to legitimize themselves, but I don't know. Does this mean the drivers have to have accounts?
I'm sure. Yeah. Have
go to the Gasly.
Gasly, he's all stylish and cool. Yeah, a little showing a little chest hair. Ooh. So yeah, that sounds risque at best.
I mean, in all seriousness, I could see how it would work for both on a financial sense, and like I would see the drivers having an OnlyFans, but it'd just be like exclusive behind the scenes stuff, like after qualifying, this and that. Like they just almost be like a blog for them as they try to legitimize themselves. But it's really hard to shake that that association when that's you made yourself famous not because of this.
No, and again, I think I don't know. I could be maybe casting too much doubt on the folks at OnlyFans, but I don't think they give a crap about any of that other stuff. They just care about the porn, and that's it, right? They're not interested in like they're legitimizing themselves only so that they can get these other contracts and get more money and more people on taking their clothes off for money, right? Like I think that's the only goal they have. They going mainstream is not. It's a facade. That's my 2 cents, but
Let's call them cynical take.
Yeah. I don't know if one can be too cynical about the porn industry. So they
you can never underestimate them. That's for sure.
Well, you can't either. No, they are tremendously forward thinking. It's an industry where there aren't a lot of rules, right? So they're allowed to, and they always have that. I can't say this for sure, but I always heard these sort of stories that a lot of what is online video advertising and what makes up the world of online video was all pioneered by the porn industry because they were doing it long before anybody else because they were incentivized to do so. So, it's a messy time. I guess we'll find out if that wild rumor is true. So,
yeah, I mean we're way off topic, but I remember like 20 years ago, I was in some class or something. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, someone said the easiest way to become rich is when a brand new technology comes out. Think, how do we get porn on this? And if you could be the one who figures it out. And this was about the time where we were getting off our Blackberries and going to iPhones. And I was thinking, because they're talking about phones, and I was like, this will never fly. So I've always thought, something new comes out, think, all right.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if they can fully exploit this as well. So it'll be interesting. And, I'm sure we'll have plenty of great rumors as the silly season of the summer continues. There's been a lot more news than even I thought there would be over the past week. So maybe we'll get even more exciting.
I'm waiting. I won't be a silly season, but I'm waiting for the first team in the off season to flat out basically say we're tanking 25 because all their focus is on 26, and you could have these really weird dynamics next year.
Yeah. Haas.
Red Bull maybe even. They might be like,
oh, maybe they just phone it in. No, they can't. They can't do that. Max would lose it. He's already angry enough.
I think next year Mercedes and McLaren will be pushing because who knows what'll happen in 26, and I think they've passed Red Bull right now.
I think so too.
Better car.
I think so too. And if they figured it out, you can't don't waste that opportunity, right? And especially because you can build momentum. Even if all the rules change, if you get that winning mentality, either you found it at McLaren or you've got it back at Mercedes, that's the time to just push hard, right? And capitalize on it. And really, again, it's a psychological game a lot of time. Crush your competition, make them think they can't beat you, and then that's one of the first rules. So
yeah, I mean, it is going on a bit long, so we'll wrap it up. But I'm sure Mercedes would be ecstatic if they and McLaren are 1-2 in the manufacturers, because like we said, some teams are looking for engines next year, and Mercedes can be like, look, we're the engine, come to give us more money. So
you get a lot of customers that way, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We'll be back next week. And who knows what's going to happen between now and then. I wouldn't have predicted half of these stories. So we'll keep our eye open and see what comes down the pipe.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Mike.
All right. See you.
Bye.
Okay. This has been a bit of a long episode, but we've been just chatting about a lot of good things. So, hopefully you stuck with it till this point. We'll take a quick look at what's next. So this week, I have been driving the Mustang GT, which I just alluded to. I have a lot of thoughts on it. I will only just say this for now. I didn't expect myself to like it as much as I did. I'll leave it at that. And next week, Kyle will be back, and I'm going to put him straight to work. We are doing a 3 SUV, kind of a comparison, more of a feature. We're going to have sort of an SUV that has, 3 SUVs with historic nameplates and sort of the version that best represents what they're about right now. So we'll have a Jeep Wrangler, we'll have a Ford Bronco, and a Toyota Land Cruiser. We'll talk more about that next week, but until then, Jay, what do you have coming up, and where can people find your stuff?
Find my stuff on Modern Motoring. I'm on the YouTubes and the Instagrams and the Facebooks and Threads, and not really on the thing with that guy who makes the Teslas. But everywhere else I am. And as far as vehicles, I've got the first ever Fiat EV next week, the 500e. There's nothing new really about the Elantra N, but it's such an awesome underrated car that I just decided to book it. And the base model i5, because I think that's going to be the sweet spot for between the i5 and the i7. $80,000 being affordable is something that sounds funny to say out loud, but that's where we are in the modern automotive world.
Yeah, you're right. I know. I remember when that used to be like S-Class, and now it's, you want electric cars? You're spending 70, 80. Anyway. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up then. Thank you so much for guest hosting. And when we lose Kyle on other various trips and programs, I'll have you back on.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. eBay Motors is here for the ride. Your elbow grease, fresh installs, and a whole lot of love transformed 100,000 miles and a body full of rust into a driveway entirely its own. Brake kits, LED headlights, whatever you need, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.